Good evening, everyone. It's 5 o'clock on May 3rd, and we're going to call the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors to order. And at this time, we'll call Tim Sackett for Transport of Christ for our invocation. Everybody stand, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So here we are again. I said earlier to Supervisor Schoberg, you guys really gave up a great evening to be here, which really shows to us as citizens what a commitment this is, what a sacrifice. It's not the job that you have here, but it's the role that you have to perform on behalf of the citizens. And in bringing pastors together to put a schedule together to be here, I find that even we have these hectic pace schedules, but just a quotation, a piece of wisdom that I'll include in the prayer comes from one of my favorite pastors. His name is Chuck Swindoll. So with that, let us pray. Lord God in heaven, the hours that are spent in this room are important hours. I know that the people here, the ladies and gentlemen here, are not here to mess around or to take things lightly. There are things that happen in our district, in our counties, that bring a lot of sadness, whether it's drug use or people being killed on the highways. There's a lot of tragedy around us. And I pray, Lord, for the wisdom that the people have here, that their sadness would not turn into outright disgust, but instead turn into a steady plan of action. And we just pray, Lord, that as we go about our days and hours with the noise and the crowds, it has a way of siphoning our energy and distracting our attention, and it's making prayer an added chore rather than a comforting relief. And if the pace and the push of hectic schedules are getting to us, then help us to find the time to stop and find a place to pray to refresh our spirit. And Lord, we know there's a big difference between seeing our jobs here as a chore and our time in prayer and busyness to be a chore. But instead, we're here as clergy of this county to be a blessing and an encouragement that we would have a refreshing of the Spirit in the people that are here today. And for that I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Cindy, can we have roll call, please? Everybody's present. Lori, I think you said Lori would be a little late.
Supervisor Bergman called and said she'll be late.
Okay,
She'll be
thank you.
here.
At this time, we have public comment, open to items on or off the agenda. And I believe we have Susan Van Mill who would like to speak at this time.
That's Suzanne Van Mealy.
Okay.
I attended the April organization national meeting, and just like today, there was a moment of prayer, a pledge of allegiance, followed by swearing in of each of you by no less than 3 judges. I was surprised to learn later that all meetings were canceled for April and that no county level committee decisions could be made for a whole month. Why? Well, due to invalid ballots being cast for 5 administration committee positions, That's why. And I'm glad this was caught and will be addressed today. It's hard to fathom that this bright body, who I read about in the newspaper running for board, can't enter 5 names and sign a ballot after receiving simple instructions to each to vote for 5 fellow members or themselves for the administration committee. But a few ballots were short of the 5 names required, which resulted in being 4 ballots short, what should have been 95 ballots cast. That's enough to skew this election, because 2 candidates had only 1 vote short of being on the administration committee. It was very close. Now, I have not looked to see who did not follow instructions, nor am I going to. And 2, no one counting the ballots totaled them all to verify that each of the 19 supervisors had voted for 5 candidates until it was noticed after the meeting. But these were people called out of those attending the April meeting who weren't used to doing this. And you really can't fault them. But to avoid something like this in the future, it would be wise to assign the task of balloting to the county clerk, who would select assistants to pass out the ballots, count them, collect them, count them, verify whether the ballots are valid, and the total is the expected total. A procedure should be written to give to assistants and the clerk to follow to assure the ballots are valid, and if not, the ballots should be disqualified and thrown out. Something like this happened before, some time ago. A lot of people have forgotten or never knew that it did happen. I would not like to think that a few colluded to skew this election, but some might. If that was the case, it would take a lack of integrity and honesty. It would betray the trust within this body right from the start to work together to perform in the best interest of the public. I hope that this never happens again. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? If not, we'll move on with the agenda. We have the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to move on that? Supervisor Peavy, motion, second from Supervisor Brinkman. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll vote on that then, to approve that. All in favor? Got the date of our next meeting, which will be June 7th, 2016 at 5 p.m., just so you know that. There's nothing for rezoning, evidently. Nothing on that. Presentations and recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to introduce 2 gentlemen that are from the respective departments of transportation for the state of Minnesota and the state of Wisconsin. These are the co-project leads for the St. Croix River Crossing project, and once or twice a year, more like once a year, we invite the 2 gentlemen in to give us an update, give the County Board of Supervisors an update on where things stand in terms of construction for the St. Croix River Crossing project. So I'd like to introduce to the board Terry Zoller from the Minnesota Department of Transportation and Tim Mason from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you. And again, my name's Tim Mason. I'm from Wisconsin DOT, and I will pull up a PowerPoint here. I'm here tonight with Terry Zoller from MnDOT. As most everyone's aware, we've got a joint project between Wisconsin and Minnesota. MnDOT is the lead agency on the river crossing, and so Terry's here tonight to provide an update on the river crossing project, and then I will finish up with the Wisconsin approach work. So Terry?
Thank you, Tim, and thank you to the county board for inviting us over. I'll just go right into it and talk a little bit about the river crossing. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about is what we did last year over the winter of 2016, just to give you a highlight that we have been working all winter long. It's a very aggressive schedule. What we did was we worked on the 5 river piers, so all 5 piers are complete out in the water today. The pier tables and the pier tower is all done, so we're all the way up to the top of everything out in the water. Pier 13, which is on the Wisconsin bluff, halfway up the bluff, that always has been a real concern to us from an environmental standpoint, so we did that work over the winter time, and that pier is actually complete right now. We, because we're a little bit behind schedule, we're bringing in 2 massive, what they call ringer cranes, and that should be exciting this year. Ringer crane is, it can carry about 650 ton. There's only about 4 or half dozen or so in the U.S. They rent for probably about $80,000 a month. So we're bringing that in order to accelerate and keep the project on schedule. The 36 Highway 36 precast in place sections, which is on the Minnesota side, that should be done in about July of this year. And the 2 casting yards that we have, they should be done in about July. Again, I'll just talk real briefly about the bridge. As you can see the picture of the bridge on the screen up there, this is kind of what it looks like today. We hope to have most of it done this fall, all except for the connections between. So there'll be about a 2-foot gap that we have to maintain over the winter time. So that gap will be done, in 2017. All the piers except for piers, piers 10 and 11, which is the 2 on the right side there, they should be done. They will not be done completely, but everything else should be done. If I look at this slide here on the left-hand side, that's one of the ringer cranes. That's the ringer crane that I mentioned, goes for about 80 grand a month just to rental for that thing. It's a massive crane, and we had to build a special pad on the Wisconsin side to do that, and that work will be lifting the segments up for the Wisconsin approach bridge. The casting yards, there's 2 casting yards, one at Gray Cloud, one on site. This one here has 338 segments. We have 3 beds. We're about 70% done. Each one of these segments are 80 to 90 tons apiece, and we'll probably put up about 4 of those segments a day down on the bridge site on the Minnesota side. The casting yard down at Gray Cloud Island, which is down on halfway between Prescott and St. Paul, on the Mississippi River. We get 650 segments that we bring down there. They come up through Prescott up the St. Croix River. Takes about 6 hours for them to come up, and we hope we get 650 that were made down there. We get about 530 done, and we probably got 120 hung today, and we should get about 625 of them up this year, total 625. A little view of what's going to happen this coming summer. We're going to work on all the segments, all the piers in the water at the same time, which is going to really be exciting. Unless you're a boater that happens to be out there, then we're going to be kind of restricting traffic. Anticipate working on piers 8 and 9 and get real close to connecting those 2 on the Minnesota side. Complete the segments at pier 12, and I'll have this begin the cable stay installation on 10, 11, and 12. This view is like short.
Yep. So on the Wisconsin approach work, last year, as everyone saw, we basically realigned County Highway E. We built 3 roundabouts, one at Highway 35 and 2 at the Interchange. And then we did the grading work from E to the existing 4-lane facility. That was the work that we did last year. That was stage 2 of our project. Here's just a couple photos. Here we are looking north. The County Highway E interchange in the foreground. And here's a picture looking the opposite direction towards the south. So this year, what we plan to do out there is primarily the paving of the Highway 64. We actually have a few weeks worth of work to finish up from last year. It was pretty wet fall last year, so we started in mid-April, and we'll be done probably the end of this week, just doing some of that grading and finishing up out there. The middle of May, we'll start with our contract for this year to do the paving, and they'll likely be done by July. So it'll be a fairly early year. It won't take them very long to get that paved. We don't anticipate any impacts to traffic. It'll all be done off alignment. And then once we're done this year, it'll basically be, you know, the Highway 64 will be paved. It'll be all done. It'll be the same traffic control that's out there now. We're not going to allow traffic on it until the bridge is open. Because there is a short piece, we'll pave as far close to the bluff as we can get. But there will be a piece that we can't pave until the bridge contract is done. If you've traveled on Highway 35, you'll notice some large stockpiles of material. Once they're done with the bridge, that material goes at the abutment. And so then we pave over the top of that. So there'll be a short segment that we can't quite get done until 2017 when the bridge is done. So this summer, there is some exciting opportunities to visit the project. We are offering, or St. Croix Boat and Pack is offering 3 tours per month, starting in May. Typically, it's a paddle boat tour. It'll take you, it costs about $10 for adults. Takes you down by the piers. There's representatives from Wisc and MnDOT that kind of talk about the construction process and where we're at and what you're seeing out there. So I'd highly encourage, if you have any interest in the project, there are quite a few. The dates are on there all summer. With that, we can take any questions. I guess the only thing I would follow up with as far as, so once the project is open to traffic, we still have one more project, which is the Loop Trail project. That'll be going in 2018. And that's the conversion of the lift bridge into a bike ped facility. And then we'll be paving up the Holton Hill with a new bike ped facility and a trailhead that's kind of at the interchange. So there's a little bit of work to be done in 18, but that's all for the bike ped facility. Traffic should be open on the new highway sometime in the fall of 17. With that, Terry and I could take questions if anyone, yes.
Last winter, I saw an article that apparently something had been overlooked and there's swelling in one of the sections, and there was a small problem there. I was just curious how that was resolved.
I think, I don't remember the article, but I think what happened, right over 95, truck highway 95 on the Minnesota side, there's a lot of section right there. And what happened is water got into one of the grow tubes, okay? And we're supposed to fill all those up. The contractor mistakenly just forgot to fill that up before the first freeze came through. And it kind of blew the side of the section out a little bit. We're in the process of repairing that right now. It's not a structural problem of the issue. It just blew out the side on that one section. In fact, it happened twice.
Supervisor Hanson?
Did I hear you say that, if I understood correctly, they're going to be done casting the sections by July?
Probably end of July, they should be done doing all the casting.
Okay.
Supervisor Nelson?
Is the old lift bridge going to be stuck in the down position then? Because some people with their yachts are not going to make it through.
No, it'll continue to operate on the same schedule, even as the loop and, or the bike and ped facility. It'll still go up and down.
Any other questions? Supervisor Ring?
I just have a question on the date. I don't think you had put months, so are we looking at the end of 2017 and the end of 2018, or is there any other earlier date?
No, it'd be, I mean, right now, we're saying the fall of 2017, open to traffic. And then the loop trail project would be fall of 18.
Another question, it's a new type of bridge, this Extrados Bridge. How is that going? Are there challenges? And then the other part of that is budget. How is it on budget?
I'll do the Extrados part, but yeah, it's a very unique bridge. As you can see, even from the picture up there, it's a kind of a cross between a cable stay bridge, which is like the Tampa Bay Bridge, or I like to talk it down in Tampa, which is a real tall tower, and the cables actually hold the bridge up. And like the 35W Bridge in downtown Minneapolis, which is just a box girder. So these towers are real short, so they don't actually hold the thing up. All they really do is compress the thing together. This is only the second major bridge of this type in the U.S. The other one is out in Connecticut. There's a couple of smaller bridges down in Texas, but most of them, there's about 70 of them worldwide, most of them in Japan, Italy, those kind of places, a couple in Canada, but this is only the second one in the U.S.
And so we're figuring it out, the construction is going well?
Oh, okay. The second part of the question, because it is so complicated, I don't think the contractor or even we as the agency understood how complicated this thing was. So we ran into everybody, the contractor in particular, ran into some issues, and that's why it's 1 year delay at least at this time.
And then as far as funding, so the initial estimate, at least for the Wisconsin portion of the St. Croix Crossing project, was $305 million. That included, all the real estate, all of our approach work, the bridge, all the mitigation items. It was everything. We're currently funded through $270 million. We recently put in for a request to get the additional $35 million to put us up at the $305 million, but that has to be approved through the legislature. So for right now, we're okay, but as with the delay of the bridge project, we're anticipating some additional costs, so we're trying to prepare for that right now.
Any other questions? Supervisor Brinkman?
The bike path, walking path on the bridge, is there going to be a wall between that and the traffic?
Yes. There are some good, if you go to the St. Croix Crossing, just Google St. Croix Crossing, MnDOT has a website. They've actually got some good animated video, kind of what it's going to look like when it's completed.
Any other questions? None? Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
I'll leave appointments up to our Administrator Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just have 2 appointments this evening. They are citizen appointments to the Board of Adjustments, reappointment of James Nelson and Ed Sontag as citizen members of the Board of Adjustment.
So I'd look for a motion. Supervisor Berkey?
I move to approve the appointment of James Nelson and Ed Sontag to the Board of Adjustment.
Second, Supervisor Peterson? We have a motion and a second to approve the appointments. Is there any discussion? No discussion? We'll vote this time. That was was all yeses. Thank you. And annual reports at this time. We'll move forward to our 2015 County Veterans Officers Annual Report from Dale Koch, please.
Thank you. I am Dale Koch, your County Veterans Service Officer. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to give my annual report. There's currently approximately 6,000 veterans in St. Croix County. This past year, 2015, St. Croix County veterans received $31.6 million in federal benefits. When I'm talking federal benefits, I'm talking about VA disability compensation, veterans and widows pension, vocational rehabilitation, and medical care. Just as a comparison, in 2014, that figure was $27.8 million. These monetary benefits are funds that veterans are utilizing in our county. One, they help our veterans, but these are funds that they're spending in our county. As I shared a year ago, one of my initial goals was outreach. I realize I'm not going to reach every veteran in St. Croix County, but I'm going to do my best to do that. Outreach, I've connected with American Legion VFW posts in this county. Great relationships with those folks. Besides that, I realize there's a mechanism where I can reach out through the federal VA and receive notification of discharge in military members. This is some hoops I had to jump through, but twice now I've received huge reports of members who were discharged who live in St. Croix County. The nice thing about it is they gave me the name, address on little sticky labels. All I have to do is my little cover letter, welcome home, and I send out, the initial one was over 200 members. That's huge. That's a great outreach, and I've had really good comment from the folks I reach out to. They're like, wow, you're reaching out to me. That's very unmilitary. So it's a great benefit. It allows me to reach out to the veterans, and it's just one mechanism for me to contact with St. Croix County veterans. Also, last summer, we hosted a VA benefit outreach event in New Richmond at the Service Center, where I brought in key VA benefit presenters, folks from the Spooner Cemetery, the VA hospital, education, anything with VA benefits. I brought in presenters. The event went fairly well. We had a good turnout. I'm planning to do it later this year, and I'm hoping for even a bigger event. I'm happy to report that I have 9 volunteer drivers that provide free transportation for St. Croix County veterans to the VA hospital over Minneapolis. That's 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I'm getting veterans from their house. We pick them up right at their doorstep. We bring them right to the Minneapolis VA. For this program, we receive a grant from the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs to run this program. I'll be honest with you, the grant does not cover all of this program. We take some of the funds out of Hyde. This is a program that's envy to neighboring counties, and I hope to continue taking the money out of Hyde because this is a great program. Another goal I had, which I obtained, was gaining access to the VA's database. It's a system called Stakeholder Enterprise Portal. With this, I take my St. Croix County computer, I log into the VA's database, and I am now like I'm a VA employee. I can look at the same stuff the folks at Milwaukee, Minneapolis. I am technically a VA employee when I look at that database. With this, also Jerry's in the process of getting, I expect her to get it here in the next month or so. As an example, what this does for me, just a couple months ago, a woman came into my office. I had never met her before. A female veteran walks in, and she's got this letter saying she's indebted to the VA for $3,000. What's this about? And I look at it and I go, I'm not sure. I pulled up her system through the VA database, and I found out that she was getting paid as a married veteran with one dependent. And now the VA is saying that's not true. We need to correct that and get all this back money. Well, she says, I am married and have one dependent. She had a marriage certificate with her. She had the birth certificate with her. Long story short, I was able to resolve that situation. I called the debt management center. She walked out of my office knowing, one, that she doesn't have a debt to the VA, two, that the situation was resolved. Previously, I would have had to call Milwaukee, wait a couple days for them to get back to me. A week later, I call her up. She comes back into my office, and now we resolve it. With this database, we can correct problems on the spot. One, the confidence that we have in our veterans is great. They come in, less than an hour later, the situation is resolved, and they leave my office. It's huge. Another thing I want to mention, and a few of the folks, especially the few folks at the front of the room here are aware of this. A few months ago, there was a bill introduced down in Madison that would have centralized CVSOs, and I think I talked to a few of you in this room about that. Through the veterans groups and the county administrators, and thank you, Pat, I believe this bill has died. This bill would have taken away CVSOs. I mean, they would have, I'm not sure what the plan was, but I can't imagine telling St. Croix County veterans, you have to go to Eau Claire, or you have to go to Rice Lake, or you have to go to Barron. Not a lot of grumbling. I've had a little bit of grumbling of the veterans who were used to coming to this building here. You mean I have to go to New Richmond? That's minor compared to sending them to Eau Claire or something. Also, along those same lines, this past weekend, as part of the Loyalty Day parade up in New Richmond, I was able to corner Senator Sheila Harsdorf, and she confirmed with me that that bill is dead. Senator Harsdorf, can I have a minute of your time? I think I know what you're going to talk about. And we talked about this, and she goes, yes, Dale, I'm not sure what the folks who were thinking who brought this bill forward, but this bill is going nowhere. So I'd like to once again publicly thank Pat and the county administrators for their support on that. Thank you, Pat. My final comment is about my staff. Second to none. Thanks for your attention tonight, but more importantly, thank you for allowing me to be your veterans rep. It's a great job helping my fellow veterans. Before I open this up for questions, I have 2 points I want to mention to you. One, Roger and I talked a few minutes ago. There's a documentary on Honor Flight. I've shared with a few of you. I've gone on 9 of these flights as a guardian. Judge Vlack heard about this documentary, and I have 2 copies. He borrowed one of my copies. He was so impressed, he went out by himself and bought 3 copies and said, here, pass these around to other people. So I've given Roger that copy for him to view, and I encourage you, when he's done with it, borrow that from him. It's a documentary about 4 World War II vets, them going on the honor flight to Washington, D.C. It is an amazing story. So please take advantage of that. And the other story I have for you, 2 or 3 months ago, husband and wife come into my office. They're both Air Force veterans. Jerry and I help them get them the benefits that they need and deserve. They come back a month or so later, and we're resolving issues, taking care of stuff. And she thanks me for everything I've done to her, for them. And she goes, Dale, I have one complaint. I go, what's that? She goes, you got a lot of nice pictures on the wall. But I look around all these pictures on the wall, and there's nothing but men. There's female veterans too. And she and I had a great relationship. And it was almost like she wanted to argue with me. And I says, guilty as charged. You are right. And we kind of laughed a little bit. I looked at Beth, my administrative assistant and female veteran. I go, we need to resolve this. So she quickly did some searching, and she found a photo that I'm in the process of putting up. So this photo right here is going up in the office. The nice thing about that is, this is little bit of history about that. I don't know who exactly these folks are. You probably know more about this than I do. It's back in World War II, there was female veterans who flew planes back and forth, so the men pilots could be overseas. Do you know more history about than I do? But it's really interesting what these female veterans did during World War II. So I got a prominent spot in the office that this is going up. And ironically, she just came in 2 weeks ago, is laying on my table, and I go, "You were the one who brought that up," and she's kind of guilty. She says, "Yeah, that was me." I go, "Look at my picture." She goes, "I love it." With that, any questions for me?
Supervisor Long?
Try it again. There we go. I have just kind of a tough question, I imagine. It's from the context of my son, who is a Marine, and also my daughter-in-law has done a lot of counseling for veterans. And what I've found and what I've learned is that one of the problems is when the veterans come back, they may have some issues that they need to deal with, and they don't know it. They don't really recognize it. So are there any particular, I know this is tough, but outreach programs where you can help some of these people try to recognize that they do need some help and they do need some counseling to get over some of the issues that they may not want to admit that they have?
Good question. I will start by answering veterans. I have found that veterans are very stubborn and proud. First, veterans themselves are not real good at asking for help because of their pride at times. Not every veteran has access to health care at the VA. Veterans who served in a combat zone, Iraq or Afghanistan, no matter what their income is, they have 5 years of health care at the VA free. So one, I have an Afghan vet come into my office. I can get them health care at the VA free of charge to see. I twist arms. I go, if nothing else, go there for an initial assessment to see what's there. That's about the only outreach I know of, just getting them into healthcare, reaching out like we're reaching out. Each branch of the military, when they leave the military, they do their part too. So it's a partnership between the branch of the military when they walk out the door to when they're back here in our county and us trying to connect with them. Yes,
Supervisor Schoberg?
I realized you recognized that the bill that would have regionalized your services may be dead now. Do you know who first introduced that bill that would have done the damage?
I don't have the name here right handy. I should have been more prepared and brought that with. There was 2 individuals. I'm not sure what totally their thinking was behind it. It may have been try to do a money-saving thing. But on that line, if you look at what my staff costs St. Croix County and the amount of money that comes in, it is hugely different. I don't remember their names offhand. If you emailed me, I could get that for you.
I'd like to actually have that a matter of record because that would have been just a crazy development had that occurred. And you are doing such a fine job for our veterans that I hope we continue to have your services available to the people in this St. Croix County.
Thank you. There was more to the bill. Part of the bill was right now the law says each county shall have a county veteran service officer. They're taking the word shall out of there and put the word may in there. And fast forward, their thinking was to get that to may, and then from that they're going to do to centralizing it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dale.
Thanks for
Appreciate
your
it.
time.
At this time, we'll move up for our Information Technology Department annual report. John Allegro, please. Thank you.
And I promise I don't have any shalls or mays in my report. 2015 was a good year for the IT department at St. Croix County. We were able to complete a lot of initiatives that were started in 2014, and we were able to roll out projects that were funded in the 2015 budget. Many of these projects were either identified in the IT strategic plan or the IT assessments that were done before I got hired on here at St. Croix County. Some of the major milestones we completed are outlined in the annual report, which is contained in the packet. There was a lot of other success stories that we had. quite a few small ones, lots of medium-sized ones, and some bigger ones too. If you have any questions about the projects, I'd be happy to answer those for you. And on behalf of everyone that the IT department helps at St. Croix County, I'd like to say thank you for your continued support. Any questions?
Supervisor Hanson.
Okay, so when I read it, what is a dark fiber ring?
A dark fiber ring. Yeah, it sounds like something from Star Wars. It's actually, we lease fiber optic cable that is only our data that travels on it. And it goes from building to building. We completed that ring in the fall of last year, so 2015, I think October. We connected the nursing home in New Richmond back through North Hudson and down Trout Brook Road and over to the Government Center, which completes a circle. So anywhere, prior to that, anywhere on our ring, if there was a single cut, we'd have outages. Now we've got our switching gear configured that if there's a cut in any one piece of fiber, we don't have an island out there anywhere. Traffic will automatically reroute backwards and come back to the Government Center from wherever that break was.
Does that give us an advantage security-wise to have our own ring?
It does, although even if we were on shared fiber, there is methods of security that we could put in place to protect us. It's all encrypted. We would go ahead and the routing and the access list would keep people from getting their information or gathering our information from our network. So yeah, we're secure, more secure this way. Yeah.
Supervisor Ring.
I have a question about, the SORI department is responsible for providing technology services, devices, and solutions. Do you do anything with information services, the IS side, database, analysis, analytics, helping departments with these software so we can get reports out of them? Is that part of your role?
We do some of that. Annette Massey is one of our database analysts, our primary database analyst here. She created tons of access databases over the last 25 or 27 years that she's been here at the county. She provides feedback and support on those, shows people how to get the information out of it that they need. She's more of a, I'll show you how to do it type person so that you can do it yourself versus always do it for people. So, and if we did do that where we were doing every report for every person at the county that requested one, she wouldn't get anything done.
Sometimes when you invest so much in technology, you're not able to get the information out. That, so,
That's an important part of it. So,
yeah.
And that's something that actually I've mentioned that down the line here sometime soon, not this year probably, but soon I was looking for somebody that would be able to back her up because she's becoming more and more involved in our SharePoint deployment and getting information using business intelligence out of SharePoint and all the databases that we're going to be creating in SharePoint, that her time with the access stuff is going to need to be, transitioned into somebody else. And I don't know for sure, but she's been here for 27 or 28 years, so her days at the county may be shorter than we want them to be. So, 5 or 10 years, she could be deciding that it's time for her to retire, and we've got nobody that knows access at this point. So.
Or when we have a database for a budget or whatever,
Absolutely.
we have to be able to get that information out. And if the burden then, if it's not in your department, might be in each department, and does that make sense?
There is. So right now we have Kim Dupre, who works pretty much exclusively with the HHS department, and they rolled out, they used to have Echo, it was their medical records and billing software, is that right? They rolled out Avatar last October, that went live. And she has been writing reports and getting data out of there and using business intelligence and crystal reports and SQL reporting services to get all that information out of there. And she's exclusively, that's pretty much a full-time job for him up there. It's 40 hours a week and sometimes even more. But with the new ERP project that we're looking at, we have 6 or 7 softwares that we've identified right now that we're trying to roll into one with this ERP project. The RFP should be ready by May 11th. It's going to go live, is what we're guessing. And, after we get that in here, we're hoping to replace all these disjointed softwares with one package that can cover most of those things. And then we'll have a couple people, depending on the size of the department, like finance would have a couple people in there that would be able to extract data out of there for their needs. HR would have somebody in their department that would pull the HR stuff out, and IT would be able to help and point them in the right way. Plus, we're also looking at negotiating up to 10 years of support from the vendor that we select for this application. So. That's all going to be a part of the negotiations in the beginning, and the levels of support that we get will be included with that.
Any other questions? Supervisor Long?
John, I was at a conference about a month ago. It was kind of interesting. The keynote speaker was a cybersecurity expert, supposedly. And she didn't talk a lot about what you should be doing to protect your data from breaches, but her point was very interesting in that she said it's not a question of if you will ever be hacked, but when. And so her whole presentation was basically you should have a lot of plans in place on the flip side, not so much how you're going to protect your data, but what are you going to do when or if it happens, and what are the protocols that you're going to follow to make sure that you're limiting your liability and you're limiting the risk should that ever happen. Is that part of your plan, or have you thought about that?
It is. We've been creating redundancy since I got here. So we've got duplicate data centers. We can go ahead and spin up our virtual environment here, which is our primary environment, in our other data center within an hour. We participate in the COOP, which is the continuation of operations plan for St. Croix County. We have certain milestones that we have to meet within so many hours of a major disaster, including a breach of data. We have backup systems in place that have, we have 3 copies at 2 different sites, and one of them is off-site. So we have lots of copies of our data. You may have seen an email that I sent off to everybody at St. Croix County, or St. Croix County leadership last week, that covered something called ransomware, which is one of my biggest fears. It's a virus. You can get it by driving by a website that's a legitimate website. If they're infected, you'll get it. And what it does is it looks for files on your network, and once it finds those files on your network, it goes ahead and encrypts your files, and then they charge you a fee to get the key to unlock your files. So as an IT director, that one scares me. Not a lot we can do about it, because it's only, we're only as strong as our weakest link, and our weakest link is the end user. They are the least informed about IT, so we're trying to make them more informed about it. There's a project out there called Securing the Human. I don't know, maybe Ryan's heard about it. It's put on by SANS. They're a big security company. They provide alerts to me daily. It's a training program that's just a few dollars a user. They have a minimum, but it's a few dollars a user per year, and they have training packages for teaching your end users how to be more secure, and it puts them through kind of role-based things. So we're looking at different approaches there. We're trying to stay one step ahead of them. That's all we can do at this point. And the person that was your keynote speaker is absolutely right. It's just a matter of time before they get in, and they may already be in. And they're just waiting. But we have layers and layers upon layers of security equipment and software here, and we monitor it constantly. We have a couple good people that do that for us, and we're hoping that we're not going to become victims. And if we do, we think we're prepared. There's always more we could do, but financially, I think we're prepared at this point.
I had a question regarding staffing, since you've been our IT director. Have any changes in terms of staffing patterns? I'm just curious.
Yep, so we've hired, we were funded for one position in 2015, and that was for a telecom AV person. We've been paying a telephone support company and a couple other vendors to do low voltage cabling and telephone support for us to the tune of about $50,000 a year. I think when I presented my budget last year requesting this position, I explained that for about $15,000 or $20,000 more, we can go from 500 hours a year of support in that position to have a body full-time for almost 2,100 hours. It was almost a no-brainer, and really the guy has been running around. His name's Matt Yazgar. He's hired on now. He's been running around since March 1st like a madman. He spent a week and a half out at the highway department. Facilities keeps throwing work at him like it's going out of style, and it's all stuff that Jim would have paid for, or I would have paid for, or somebody would have. So it was a good hire. He's brought a lot of good ideas to us, and going forward for the 2017 budget, I don't see an immediate need for staffing. Our levels are really good. Our help desk people are running around pretty good right now, but I don't think they're overwhelmed. I think they tell me if they were. I look at their workload, and it looks pretty good right now. They're very busy, but they're keeping ahead of things, and yeah, we're in a good place. Yeah, thanks to you guys. I mean, it was pretty slim before, and people were spread really thin, and everybody was trying to do everything be a jack of all trades, and we siloed people, put them in their specific disciplines, and got them better at what they do, and you know, created a good help desk that was able to solve problems on the first call, hopefully most of the time. And again, you know, it's,
Supervisor Schoberg, did you have a question?
Actually, that was asked by.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Any other questions? There are none? Thank you, John.
Thank you again.
Appreciate it. We'll move on to Facilities Department Annual Report. Jim Ellsbury.
Good evening. Welcome back to all the ones that are returning, and hi to the new members of the board. The new members, you get to have a little bit of me being honed over the series of our old board members being in place, so hopefully I do a really nice job with this presentation tonight. So you have in your packet the accomplishments of the Facilities Department. One of the things that we were impressed with was the deeds, Register of Deeds remodel, getting them so that they were more customer-centric and able to do their work in a more efficient manner. That's been completed. You also, the second floor was wallpapered. We put new LED lighting in, so if you're at the end of the hallway and you wave, somebody at the other end actually knows who you are waving instead of the dark places we had here. So we've kind of improved the brightness and the overall feelings of we're not that snow dreary day anymore. We're actually a bright, light place to work. So it's helped a lot in a lot of ways. The remodels have come in with the carpet and so on and so forth. We continue on. That's all based on a condition analysis where we'll go in room by room and we'll rate everything for 6 years or out. And if it has to be sooner, it's rated that way. So every room gets visited every year. The ones become an immediate replacement. And then the following year, the ones become a 2, so on and so forth. And we keep throwing it out further and further. So that's how we decide what carpet goes or what wall gets painted or wallpapered. And the public areas were taking a hit so much with the amount of people we have coming in and out. We put wallpaper up, and that has really helped. One of the phenomenons with the wall covering is people tend to walk away from it. They don't rub next to it. The painted walls, they're kind of like on it all the time, or they're leaning their foot back and standing there in place. And with the wall coverings, we don't have those issues. They tend to stay away, so that keeps it looking nicer longer. Lots of projects coming up for this year. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Supervisor Schoberg.
What's your plan for making all the facilities carbon neutral?
Good question. I actually am looking at LED lighting. For instance, this building, we can do it's a $72,000 redo, putting all LED lights in. It's got a 2.5-year payback. I'm going to start bringing those forward in the KIP, and it's going to be up to the board to decide, because if you remember, the KIP was a long, drawn-out process last time, and it's not getting any easier. So there's going to be energy projects out there that will conserve and will have a short payback. There'll be others that'll be in there that you'll say no to or whatever, but I'm bringing as many as I can forward. I've just been going through the control sequence for the new building. It's 84 pages of a lot of boring reading. And so there's a boiler, and everybody's always asked, why is the boiler there? Well, it's in case the system fails, or if the system can't keep up in the holding tank where the warm water is kept, it'll build up enough heat to just get that to a temperature, and then it'll shut off. So that's why we have a boiler in the new building, even though we have geothermal. So I'm bringing more and more, here's the payback, the ROI, and trying to get us off the grid. I also have a meeting set up, it was supposed to be last week, but Excel couldn't make it, but to look at getting into a solar field. And it would cost us, obviously, upfront investment, but then we would get money back on our electric bills by going into that. So again, it's going to come up to you, and you're going to all have an ability to kick the can. So.
Just to follow up on that, have you ever priced out how much it would cost to put solar panels on top of this building to make a statement?
I have not. And the reason is when we looked into solar panels a while back, doing it yourself is a very costly initial bump. If we can side in with Excel when they're doing these farms, and I know St. Croix Electric did a very nice, I think it's safflower or sunflower system out there. you save money by joining with the utilities because they have to get solar power going. So by doing that, there's an incentive for us to join them. And so that's why I haven't, because the cost difference, it's better if we make a partner out of it, so.
Supervisor Nelson?
It's my understanding, former county board member who I saw at a thing in Hudson, did it change but when we redid the roof? But the roof here is actually set up for solar.
There's.
The brackets
Yep, the
to do that, that didn't change when they redid the roof, correct?
No, and,
So that's, some of the infrastructure's already there.
yep, it's the panels and then all the connecting that
Right.
is the cost, yep.
But it was thought about prior when this building was built, so that's something to look at.
Any other questions? Nobody? Nobody? Okay, thank you, Jim. We'll move on to our county administrator report. Turn it over to Administrator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, in your packets, you have the financial report representing financial activity in county departments through the end of March. So it represents the first quarter of the year. If you look in your packets, you have the first page is a summary of all the expenditures. We have columns showing what the annual budget is for 2016, what the year-to-date actual is, and then we show comparison years 2015 and 2014. The second page is then very similar, except it shows revenues. So if you look at the first page, the expenditures, the general fund expenditures budgeted of $26,799,000. Year-to-date actual is about $5.5 million, representing approximately 21% of the budget year-to-date. And that carries forward down to the grand total for the general fund, similar percentage numbers, 21.5% actual to budget. And then on the second page, similar revenues, general fund subtotal revenues of $4.6 million, year-to-date actual at $977,000, representing about 21% of overall budget. I've asked Bob Middett, the finance director, to maybe expound a bit on the monthly financial reports, especially for the newer board members, just to kind of explain maybe in a little more detail what exactly you're looking at in terms of these monthly financial reports. You'll see these on a monthly basis. I understand that it's at a very high level. So when you get these reports, if you have any questions whatsoever regarding a specific department or a line item within a budget, either contact me or Bob or someone in the finance department, and we'll try to get your questions answered rather than having to wait until a board meeting rolls around. But Bob is at every board meeting, and he'll be able to answer most, if not all, of your financial questions that you might have. So Bob, did you want to maybe just expand a bit on these reports?
Sure. Good evening. Three kind of general points that I just wanted to make, and especially for anyone who's more used to seeing financial statements from a private sector business. Governments use the cash basis of accounting. Briefly, it means you don't count it as revenue until the check comes in. Whereas a business counts it revenue at the time it's earned. And that's the accrual basis of accounting. Then further, to confuse things a little more, our year-end audited report is actually prepared on what's called the modified accrual basis. So it adopts some of the accrual principles. So that's probably about as much accounting 101 as you really want to hear. But the point being that most of our funds are operated on the cash basis, and that's what you're seeing here. So the next point is that our budgets are on these monthly financial statements are just a level amount per month. So what you're seeing in these March statements are 3/12 of the annual budget. It doesn't pay any attention to what the actual cash flows are. And we'll go over a couple of things that sort of anomalies on the statements, but the key point is that there are going to be differences. And then lastly, we talk about the legal level of budgetary authority, budgetary control, and these statements are prepared based on that. So what you see are the departments for each department within the general fund, and that's where the legal level of budgetary control lies for the general fund. For all of the other funds, it's at the fund level. So what does that mean? Department heads are responsible for the bottom line of their budget, not necessarily individual line items. And in fact, it's always kind of a constant battle to try to convince them that because they have room in their office supplies number and their travel budget is over, we still want the travel getting recorded as travel because we want to see where the differences are. And it doesn't matter because we're only looking at that bottom line for the department budget. So those are the three major points. Just kind of looking at that expense sheet, a few things to point out. One, because the financial statements at the end of 15 were prepared under this modified accrual basis, the first payroll in January actually gets counted as part of December of 15. So while we've had 6 payrolls through the end of March, we only count 5 of them in 2016 business. So as you're looking at these percentage variances in here, for the most part, if a department's at about 83%, they're probably right on if their department expenses are primarily payroll, and they usually are. As we get closer to the end of the year, that percentage goes up. But at the end of December, they probably still better be at about 96% because they're going to get hit in January with that last payroll. And you'll see that throughout. Maintenance contracts are often paid in advance at the beginning of the year, so you'll see some expenses that are high in certain departments, IT being one. Premiums for insurance are paid early. So you'll see risk management is going to appear high, and it'll, as a percentage of over budget, it will consistently drop during the rest of the year. Debt service, we pay that on two times during the year, March 31st and September 30th. So this statement looks like we're way over budget on debt service. We're not. You've got 6 months worth of debt service with 3 months of budget showing. Going on to the revenues, we'll jump down to the bottom where we show taxes, fund balance applied, CIP, and debt. We're showing 29 million of revenues. Keep in mind that 15 million of that was the tax apportionment. That is a one-time thing. We also had a $10 million bond issue that we sold March 1st. And that goes in there. And we had 3.7 million estate trust fund loan that went in there. So it looks like we're doing wonderfully. Don't be fooled. We're right on target. We have a full year of internal service fund chargebacks that are showing up under Corporation Counsel, the administrator, budget, and human resources. Once again, we're right on target. Grants and other revenues are seasonal. They tend to come in at different times during the year. And sales tax, it looks like kind of about 2/3 of the way down the page, we show $484,000 of sales tax received in a budget of $1,650,000. Once again, under the modified accrual, the auditors take the January and February payments and because they relate to November and December of last year. So what you see is the payment that was received in March only. When we get down to the end of the year, we'll still show that we're short until the auditors add back what we receive next January and February. The tax, I was going to point out, like for instance, and this is just an example, but under Health and Human Services, it looks like we're 169% of budget, but keep in mind that 5.6 million of that 6.5 is the levy that they received. So actually, they're kind of behind in budget, but that's a factor of grants and other incomes that come in spotty. And so they'll be fine, but things get skewed. The last one is just an example. Child support, we show $1,000 of revenue against a budget of $182,000. That's actually better than they were a year ago at this time. Once again, cash flows are just, they don't come in on a regular basis. So things look, you might be alarmed at, probably aren't. Feel free to contact me anytime you have any questions though. And then the last thing, the 2016 capital, that third schedule, I've got work to do on that yet. It doesn't reflect all of the bonding and CIP that was approved in March. That entry just did not get worked out yet. We'll have it in next month. Any other questions or?
Supervisor Schober?
Looking at that county sales tax and realizing what we as county supervisors are supposed to glean from this information, you're showing us a number of $484,000, and with your explanation, we now know that we shouldn't worry because there's $900,000 that's not showing up, or whatever that amount is. What then good is this report to us if more is hidden than what shows up?
Well, I think the first point I would make is kind of coming back to what John Allegro had referred to with the new ERP that we're looking at. That will have a much more sophisticated budgeting module in it, and so that we can take those budgets and adjust them so that they're customized to show what really is happening from one month to the next. I brought in the administration committee report that's provided to the administration committee and that you've seen before. And so that $484,000 that we received in March for January compares with $390,000 a year ago and $460,000 2 years ago. So it's a snapshot, but sales tax is doing just fine.
Any other questions? Nobody? Thank you, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, before we get into the business items, would the board like a short break? I'm just asking a question. Anybody opposed to that? You want to take 10 minutes? 20 after? Come back? Thank you, everybody. Ready to start our meeting back to order again? Everybody can take their seats. We will start.
Yep.
We'll get into our business items for the night, and the first one is consideration of action on April 19, 2016 standing committee elections, including possible re-election of standing committees. Yeah, Supervisor Babbitt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion at the beginning of our consideration of this issue that we throw out the improperly executed ballots and that we have a vote only for the remaining seat on the admin committee and the remaining seat on community development.
Okay, do I have a second to that? Supervisor
I'll second that.
has a second?
Put this up.
Yeah. We have a motion and a second. The floor is open for discussion. Any discussion? Supervisor Long.
Okay, well, I don't exactly recall, but I very possibly could have been one of your problem children. And for that, I certainly apologize, because there certainly was no intent whatsoever. In my mind, I don't think that the instructions were clearly communicated, and I certainly did not realize at all that if there were 5, I absolutely had to vote for 5. I'm pretty sure I did most of the time, but I'm not positive. One thing I can tell you is that I don't think it's really appropriate that we throw those ballots out, because those people who may have done that, I don't think there was intent. And I really believe that they sincerely wanted to support the people that they did vote for. So I think it's really important that those votes be considered. So I really don't think it's appropriate to throw those ballots out. It would certainly be more appropriate to re-vote all the way altogether. So that's my opinion.
Supervisor Babbitt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Supervisor Long's comments, and I certainly don't mean to imply that there was intent on anyone's part. Clearly, part of the dilemma that we faced as a board is the fact that we don't have a remedy, if you will, in the rules and bylaws, as Chair Larson pointed out in his memo. And it's my sense that we need to let the public know that when we make a mistake, we remedy it in the best way we can, and that we move forward. So it's my opinion that we need to move forward. Sorry, the microphone looks like it's on, but thank you. That we move forward to, as I said, I wish we could find a better word than throw out. That's a little blunt, but to, in essence, throw out those ballots because they were improperly executed. And the revote for those remaining seats allows all of us to have a say in the completion of the seating of those committees. So.
Okay. Any other discussion? Supervisor Coulter.
Yeah, I just have a question. Does every supervisor need to be on a committee?
One. Excuse that? Yeah, right. One, no more than 2 committees.
Okay, well then I just want to point out something else, that if we have this election and I wouldn't be elected to the Community Development Committee, I wouldn't be on any committees. So, does that count?
Yeah.
Does that, and that counts? Okay, I didn't know. Thank you.
Supervisor Akhtarov.
I guess I have to reiterate what Supervisor Long said, that I don't believe that everyone did it for any particular reason other than maybe they thought there were only 4 worthwhile members to be on admin. But I think it's, and I'm going to use a strong word, a little bit insulting for those who didn't know and they did vote for the ones that they wanted, that now all of their votes have to be thrown out. And I don't think that's, I use the word insulting, I can also use the word respectful enough for those who honestly had a mistake, because I remember being told you had to vote for 2 or 3, however many were left, but I don't remember it specifically being said that there's 5 openings and you have to vote for 5. And I may be wrong, but I don't think an honest mistake should have such a severe repercussion.
Supervisor Berkey?
I would point out that the rules and regs, the bylaws were given to us thanks to the county clerk's office and the administration office, that we basically had those to review, and also that information of you shall vote for the number of positions and not may. That was clearly in front of us, and our corp counsel, as I recall, did tell us that. So I'm okay with, I think we need in those 2 committees, per the motion, we have 1 seat to fill, and the others that, after we've invalidated the ballots that were incorrect, I'm okay with going forward. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Supervisor Brinkman?
Well, I was one of the people that did not vote for 5 for 1 committee. I did not know that. I do not remember being told that. Also, and I don't know if this is the time to do it, but I would also like to ask the chairman to have our admin committee look at the word shall as we look at changing bylaws and code of ethics and some things like that. Black's Law Dictionary, there are numerous cases listed in there questioning the definition of the word shall. In 2003 or 2002, the American Board Association, is that the ABA? Bar Association, excuse me. They actually looked at throwing out the word shall. I never knew that shall meant I had to. And I feel sorry for the 4 people I voted for if my vote doesn't count because I didn't know I had to vote for 5.
Any other discussion? Supervisor Schoberg?
Well, maybe we're searching for this remedy, but we were told, I remember being told that if you don't sign the ballot, it's not going to count. So if it was a defective ballot, the consequences doesn't count. Number of ways you can have a defective ballot. One way is you don't sign it. Another way is you don't do what you're told. Shall means pretty much to me, you're supposed to do what you're told. May means it's permissible. And that's the general definition I think we all understand here. I don't think we're going to argue with Black's Law Dictionary here. I think everybody in this room would know the difference between what you shall do and what you may do. So the fact that it wasn't communicated or understood just before we were voting doesn't relieve any of us of the responsibility of knowing the law. You get pulled over and arrested driving into Nevada, you think you know the speed limit, but you don't, you're still going to get the ticket. So it's up to us to know the law.
Supervisor Bergeron?
So I just have a question. The rule or the bylaw that says we shall vote for 5. It used to be may vote, as I understand, and then was it changed last year? Or, I mean, when was that changed?
It was in the queue to be changed as of 2014. The bylaws were under thorough review. It was recommended to be changed in 2014, but wasn't changed until 2015.
So, and was that change discussed by this body as a whole, or, I mean,
I don't think that it was discussed
or voted on?
fully by this body. I am told that there were experiences in the past in which supervisors were voting for less than the number of seats available. And that was why one or more supervisors recommended it in 2014.
I guess where I was going with my question is it something that people knew about before? I mean, not those of us who are new.
Well, the board voted on it.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, the board voted on it in May of 2015.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Supervisor Osnes.
The question that I've got for Corp Counsel, and I do have to thank you, sir, and Pat, for God knows how many hours that Roger and I have sat in both of your offices in the past week. Our bylaws don't tell us what we were supposed to do if we throw those out. And Scott, I'm wondering if you could help us out with the Roberts rules as we had talked about that.
Well, what Roberts suggests, if it had been caught in the first ballot, is that it should have been referred to the chair, and the chair should have either indicated what his suggestion was or have the body vote on what to do. That wasn't done. So here we're left with several rounds of voting in which there were ballots were cast that had fewer votes than available seats. And Roberts doesn't speak to that, except that if there's an election dispute, it's the body that determines what happens. And so that's why the matter's before you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? One more time, is there any other discussion? If there's no further discussion, we'll put this to vote. I'll have Cindy repeat that, the way the motion came forward.
I have a motion by Supervisor Babbitt, second by Supervisor Anderson, to throw out improperly executed ballots and have a vote for the remaining seat on the Administration Committee and Community Development Committee. And another term for throw out is spoil a ballot.
Okay, so does everybody understand the motion? And we'll vote on that. So the motion passes, and we throw those ballots out. And I believe what that means is that we vote on the administration committees for one member. So we'll pass out ballots for that, and we have to pick somebody to count.
I think Mr. Middet, Fred, and Ellen volunteered.
Okay, that'll work for us.
So maybe we want to refresh, oh, Cindy's got it up. Who the?
Yeah.
I want to read them.
Yeah.
Or is it
So if I go down through here and look,
the ones?
Ryan Seacart's on one committee. What?
All right, this is as a result from the organizational meeting, what you see on the screen.
Oh, Ryan's on.
Oops.
I think the
The nominations, I just was told they'll stand as what was done on the 19th, so then we'll put those up there so we have the names. Cindy has those. Then I've got a copy of that here. It's community development.
So,
Because if we, the ones that are left, because they have to take the 4 that should have been on there, then have been Supervisor Kiesler, Berkey, Schoberg, and Bergrun. That'll leave the ones that are nominated were Supervisor Peterson, Supervisor Ring, Liebfried, Seacart, and Brinkman would be left. That's what I'm seeing here. So we're going to get ballots distributed then?
And it's a vote for one.
it's a vote for one. You have to sign, you have to vote for one.
The ballots, we've put lines on the ballots and numbered them, and signature lines on them, and now it's an only vote for one. So,
Supervisor Brinkman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to respectfully withdraw my name from consideration.
Okay. Supervisor Ring. Supervisor
I would
Peak.
also like to withdraw.
Supervisor Seacart.
I'd also like to withdraw my name.
Well, it looks like everybody's withdrawn, so need a motion.
Who's left?
Supervisor Liebfried is left. Supervisor Osmus?
Since the good supervisor from District 18 is the only one left, I move that we cast a unanimous ballot for Supervisor Liebfried.
Do you want to vote? Just- I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Yeah, with the approval of council, I would second the motion to cast a unanimous ballot.
Okay. State your complaint then. Supervisor Hand. No complaint? You withdrawn the point of order? Okay. So then we have a motion and a second on the floor. Everybody understand the motion? So at this time, we'll vote on that then. Excuse me, the second isn't up there yet? there, the second, just,
Yeah, my question is, we have, you can't cast unanimous ballot when we have somebody object. So how can you? Oh, you withdrew?
he withdrew it.
Oh, you withdrew your objection?
Yes.
Okay. I was not aware of that.
Yes, I asked him the question, he withdrew.
It has to be unanimous consent.
Yep. It has to be unanimous vote.
Right.
Supervisor Akhtarov?
I don't know if the people who withdrew are comfortable in coming forth with an explanation of why they withdrew, because they didn't withdraw originally, and they withdrew now. I mean, if you're comfortable, I'd appreciate hearing it, and if not, so be it.
Supervisor Peterson?
Just to put it very simply, I think it was a sham, I think it was tampering with ballots, and I think it was planned, and I know some will dispute that. I'll leave it at that.
Supervisor Brinkman?
I feel sorry for the people that, because I screwed up, don't have a seat now on this committee, and my plan was to vote for one of them. So it's more important to me than if I'm on the committee or not.
No. You don't want to talk about it, so. If there's no more discussion on the motion and the second, it's time to vote. This has to be a total vote of yeses. Without that, we have to recast the vote again.
Someone fill out the ballots.
What?
Well, the motion is to cast a unanimous ballot. There isn't a unanimous ballot. And Roberts discourages this unless there's unanimity among the body.
But just like we did before, can't we just nullify our ballots and throw them out? If my ballot didn't count before for the other 4 people, now all of a sudden. Scott, what happens if I withdraw my motion? Do we vote? When I voted before for 4 people, that vote was thrown out and didn't count. Why can't it be done now?
Why can't what be done now?
Why can't my vote just be thrown out?
Because the nature of the motion required unanimous consent.
So it was a unanimous consent vote.
Right. We're going to fill out the ballots.
We'll go to the paper ballots. We'll pass them out. Supervisor Peavy.
I have a question before the ballot's passed out. I've read the bylaws as good as I can study them. It says we shall vote for one. It does not say we shall vote for one that's on a nomination list. And nowhere do I see it prevents a write-in ballot. And maybe somebody finds that in the bylaw that I did. So I would assume you could write in any name you want, because it's not prohibited by the bylaw. You can only vote for one.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Fine, one person.
Scott, to make it clear, are we voting for the one candidate who was up there, or is it wide open right now?
Well, Roberts, there isn't a rule to the contrary, and Roberts says you can vote for someone who's a member of the body and is eligible but hasn't been nominated.
Does someone have an extra ballot?
They have to be eligible, you're correct, so if they're on two committees, you can't vote for them.
Someone have an extra ballot?
Whoops, hey.
Can I ask a question? I have a question of Corp Counsel. So the last that we see behind the names of the board members is that there's one individual left on the list. Does that remain the same? Or are there some of the candidates that were being considered before that are interested in being considered? Those that withdrew?
I guess I would leave that up to the board to, I think they could reconsider their nomination status.
Did I vote for Roy if I didn't vote for Roy before?
We don't want to vote for someone that's on the committee.
Well, Roberts doesn't preclude, and this goes to Supervisor Peavy's question, Roberts doesn't preclude voting for a candidate who's not nominated and eligible for office. With the chair's permission, I'm reading the ballots off. Liebfried, 9 votes. Ring, 8 votes. Peterson, 1 vote. Achterhoff, 1 vote. There will be a second round of voting. Or actually third. Well, I'll take care of Dave and Roger. Can I see those again?
Can I take two then? Have the wisdom to do that.
I'm giving Jill 1 ballot.
Oh, Roger has it. Well, I'll take it back.
You want it with Bobby? Or you can do it with Brown?
Well, we'll do it, round 1, first count, and so forth. Hopefully. Right, we'll add a name. the seat is filled. Lee Free got 10 votes.
Lee Free got 9 votes,
No,
Ring
10.
10, and Ring got 9. So, congratulations. And now we have to move to community development. And let's see, we have. We've got Liebfried down here, Supervisor Scholberg, Coulter. And what? You're on 2, so that's scratch that one. And Judy Akhtaroff, you didn't want to be on there again? So we're down to.
I'm saying it early this time.
Well, I just wanted to make sure, because you said that last time. So it's, let's look and see. We have yeah, so Supervisor Scholberg and Coulter, we have to vote for. So we have to vote for one. And we'll have to pass out the ballots. Excuse me?
Can you tell us who's on it currently, who did get the votes? And then that'll be easier to figure out.
So,
May I speak?
we will have Cindy distribute the ballots.
I think there's some question here. What?
Some questions? Supervisor
So
Scholberg?
Supervisor Coulter had listed on his preferences that this would be the #1 committee that he'd like to serve on. And I'd like to respect that preference. And he and I have developed a working relationship. We're going to bring some businesses to this county. And so I'd like to indicate my support for Supervisor Coulter on this issue. I'm not withdrawing because then you'd have to do this unanimous thing. And so just vote.
Okay.
And I'm
Okay,
preferring.
that makes it easier.
Yeah, okay?
Okay, so thank you. So we'll pass out the ballots and vote for one.
If you look up there, the 5 people on community development, there's no triples. So who
We only
are
have,
the ones that are on community development? Is there anybody that
well,
is
because
on?
when you threw out that vote, that took 1 vote away from Supervisor Coulter, so he ended up with 9 instead of 10.
Oh,
So that's
okay,
why we had to
gotcha.
do this.
So the 4
Supervisor-
board members that currently are valid for community development are, Cindy, maybe you could
I have them
address
here.
that.
Berkey, Ring, Hanson, and Berggren. So the votes are Coulter, 16, Schoberg, 2, Peterson, 1.
So we can move on. We have those two committees filled now. And we'll move on with the agenda. Congratulations, everybody. The next business item is resolution accepting donations for Community Regeneration Fund. Supervisor Babbitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This came through the Health and Human Services Board, where we received the news that in the last will and testament of a St. Croix County citizen, Mona Faye Pett, she decided to leave the Department of Health and Human Services a donation of $8,140. So the motion before the board is in essence to accept that donation formally at this point.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Supervisor Nelson, seconded. We have a motion and a second to accept the donation. Is there any discussion? Do we have any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll vote this time. That was accepted unanimous. Thank you. Number 3 on the list is resolution supporting improved broadband availability, access, and utilization in St. Croix County. And Supervisor Ring?
I'd like to move to adopt, and I would like to comment if there's a second.
Sure. You want to, I need a second.
I'll second
Supervisor
that.
Berkey, second it. And then we're open for discussion. Go ahead, Supervisor.
So I would like to give a little background, and Eric Biltonen is here to give a short presentation if the body would like that. The background on this is basically this is what it may be called an apple pie resolution. What it is stating the county's support for broadband. And I would like everybody here to really go out of your way to understand what the broadband situation is in your area, in our county. It's very different across the way. So where it came from are the Economic Development Corporation, which has 3 members from this board sit on it, has several committees. And we decided last year that this would be one of the committees because the body was talking about how important it was to economic development. And some of you recall the last time we did a strategic plan, we talked about we need to have good infrastructure, and we talked about broadband as being part of that infrastructure. There are many places in this county that have nothing. There's a very active regional, in West Central area regional, I think it's 9 or 12 counties that have looked at that, looked at this, and help each other out with ideas and background. And we have Susan Heiser is a citizen member. She serves on that committee. She's here. She's been very diligent about helping to help educate people on what our broadband situation is. So I would I think we'll hear more about this in the future. There's not money attached right now. There is a grant program. And one of the things that I think it's important for us to know is I just looked up some information. Wisconsin's average broadband speed ranks 17th among states nationwide. That's up from 22 3 years ago. But we have $3 million that the county and anyone in this, any community in the state can go after. There's $3 million in broadband grant funds. So that deadline is coming up in June. So that program has been around for a little while. There have been 24 grants in the state. They range they range. I know the lowest one was like $88,000 and they range, and I believe 9 were funded last year. If you're listening across the river to the conversation there, where we're talking $3 million, the conversation is there, or do we put $30 million to this or $100 million? That's where the legislature and the governor are talking. So to me, it's about being competitive. Again, I would just like everybody here to take this opportunity. We can all up our IQ on it, and if you want to take about 10 minutes to hear more background, we've got Eric here to do that. I'll leave that up to you.
Thank you. Eric can step up with his presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Again, I'm Eric Bilton, and I'm the Community Natural Resource and Economic Development Educator with UW Extension. Been here for about a year and a half. Welcome to all the new members here. Good to see you again. In the course of my job, is this on? In the course of my job, one of the things I do is I do a needs assessment in the county to see what is missing, what we can add to it, to help move it forward in community and economic development needs. I did not come in starting with broadband on my radar. It's something that just kept coming up again and again and again. And so when we start talking about how much it has changed in the last few years, I like to bring up this statement last year, which came out of the White House with the Broadband Opportunity Council report, which showed that broadband has now moved from being an optional amenity that households can get to being a core utility. That puts it online with sewerage, water, communications, electricity, and it's just becoming critical. Of course, in the course of my role, of my job, I want to see, is this true or not, or is it just something that's being touted as the next current thing to throw focus at? So I started to do some research on the social economic benefits of broadband and how that can play into the social economic development here in St. Croix County. And the evidence I came was from actual case studies, research, newspaper articles, and I classified it into 5 general areas. We have jobs and income, business and economies, education, home values and sales, and public services and amenities. And I think all of you will probably recognize that all those are pretty high priority issues that the county faces. So what did the research show? In jobs and income, what we see is it's got 2 sides of the same thing. It's how people find jobs now. Anybody who's looked for a job recently, you're looking online, you're applying online, you're getting references online, you're using LinkedIn. What this does is it helps people who need jobs find appropriate jobs quickly. It attaches, you can connect to the right people in a more efficient manner. On the other side, businesses, and we've heard a lot about workforce development, workforce needs here in the county and in this region. It helps the businesses expand their labor market and get into a wider range of people so they can pull in the people they need. So it makes it a much more efficient and a much more productive labor market so that there's a lot less downtime and businesses can focus more on producing the goods they do and getting them sold, and people who need jobs can focus on working instead of just looking for jobs. On business and economics, what you see is the Wall Street Journal's reported that towns that have less access to broadband services, they're falling behind economically. They just can't compete. The businesses compete, the people that are there can't compete. And I know firsthand that within St. Croix County, there are citizens that do send in emails and connect with people asking when broadband's coming. They're looking at where their kids are going to live because they don't want to live without broadband. They want to start a home-based business and they can't do it because they don't have broadband services. There are a lot of economic impacts that are lying behind this that are going to spell the future for different townships. As far as the businesses themselves, they're conducting business a lot more on the internet. They're using it to connect with different experts, with other businesses, not just close by, but now globally. And this is fostering much more rapid innovation and higher productivity in the workspace. Very importantly, in the manufacturing sector, it opens up a local or regional market, and now you can connect globally. You can have customers anywhere in the world, and it only takes
a little bit of time to get that presence out there on the internet. And that can hold tremendous benefits for local businesses. It's also been associated, broadband infrastructure has been associated with higher level of entrepreneurial activity. If you look at the younger entrepreneurs in particular, you'll see them engaging in web-based businesses almost exclusively. They come up with an idea, they're contacting manufacturers, they're getting to their market, they're marketing, it's going, but it is broadband based. If it's not there, it's a uphill battle to get it going. Education. I don't know how many of you have children. I have two. I have one who's 10 and one who's 12. My 12-year-old has a Chromebook that was issued by the school. All her textbooks are on that. Her homework is done on that. I track her grades on that. My younger daughter is headed in the same direction. And you see this pattern developing. It's a trend that's going to continue. For families, particularly in the rural areas, if you don't have connection to broadband internet service, it makes it's a huge burden to get your kids educated, especially out of school, getting the homework done, getting the research done they need to do for reports, connecting with announcements for different school activities. There are stories about this where parents have to drive their kids to the local McDonald's to tap into the free Wi-Fi there while their kids do their homework and get it sent in. So it's crucial for the K through 12 education. It's also, you're seeing it transformed into the higher education opportunities. We're seeing it in UW Extension and UW System as well. More course offerings, more higher education, continuing education is offered. There's certifications that workers can use to improve their skills, their education, and their job opportunities. It's just playing a critical part for education on all levels, and it's going to continue to be important. And as fast as the economy is evolving and as quickly as skills needs are changing, it's going to continue to play a part. And if we want the people in St. Croix County to benefit from it, we need to improve that. Home values and sales. This is a huge one. Not only are we finding that there is a premium on the value of home sales, which translates into a larger tax base, but we're also seeing that where it's advertised, whether there's a broadband connection or not, you're seeing a significant difference in whether people are even choosing to view the house. So it's becoming a very necessary part of home sales and home values. This one research I showed here, there's about 3.1% premium on the price of a home. That can work out to about $5,000 to $6,000 additional dollars just for having broadband connection. And finally, with public services, and this is things like emergency response, medical records, education, workforce development. These are a lot of these services that we're rolling out, and more of these are web-based, and that's not going to go away. So this was the 5 issues very quickly, and I'm trying to keep within 10 minutes of the impacts and the real impacts that broadband can have on a community and a county and the welfare of the people. So what's being done about it? As Agnes said, last year the EDC, the St. Croix EDC, established a broadband committee. I'm the chair of that committee and have been pushing forth efforts on that, and I'll get forth the specific efforts on that. I'm a member of the Region 3 Broadband Implementation Group, as is Susan Heiser, which is working regionally. There's statewide, there's these regional groups that pull in the expertise and the know-how to try and really push this forward. It helps us leverage a lot of successful approaches around the state to really put in some of this, and there's some very creative ways that communities are helping to expand broadband access and availability. And finally, I work closely with the UW Extension Broadband and E-Commerce Education Center. This is a team of specialists located within UW Extension. Their whole job is centralizing this knowledge, and I have access to it all the time. So that's where we're going with this. There's a very well-developed process for establishing this, and there's 2 parts to it. One is to develop the information and knowledge to educate and raise awareness of the importance of broadband. And in response to this, we had a 2-part survey. This 1-part survey was a postcard survey just to do a county-wide survey and find out where there are clusters of need for for broadband services, and then we followed that up. 2 weeks ago, it went out as a phase 2 survey that's going to be much more in-depth, much more focused, which is going to help provide the information for both education and to provide support for grant applications. As Agnes pointed out, there is the Broadband Expansion Grant Program. That's $3 million over the biennium. That's $1.5 million every year. So there's not a lot of money, but every bit helps. I won't go over the results of this too much in the interest of time, but it did help us start to identify some locations based on availability, cost, speed. You'll see clusters in the same place around the county. Again, that phase 2 survey is in process now, probably in one more week, and we should start getting the results pulled together. It's had tremendous results. The first day they received results, they got 84 surveys back, which is a very good rate. So, turning to what local governments could do, again, there's a series of steps that we can go through. The Broadband Education Center within UW Extension helps us track that. And 2 of these are creating a sense of urgency. And this is with the information and knowledge that we're developing through these surveys, the research I'm doing, and that helps educate people such as yourselves about the importance of broadband. And the second is this broadband resolution that's before you today. And what that is, it's called an apple pie resolution. Doesn't have a lot of power to do things, but it helps build urgency. It expresses intent. It gets the ball rolling, and we can really see what's going on. There's a lot of activity to follow from this. There's other things that we can do, speaking to ordinances and that, but I think in terms of time and the hour of the night, I'll stop here and see if there's any specific questions.
Anybody have any questions?
Is the grant money only available to the county, or is it available to private businesses, which are the ones that usually have to shuck out?
Great question. It does require a private-public partnership in it. So part of my role is to help find these gaps where there's citizens that are either unaware or they're not yet getting in order, and help put them together so the demand's there, so it makes sense for the private provider to go in and expand it. Yes.
Supervisor Hanson.
Dr. Belton, do you see some point the private sector, maybe a utility stepping up and partnering with St. Croix County to provide these services?
Oh, absolutely. That's who we would work with, as providers who are willing to explore this area. They've got to be willing to sort of work on a smaller scale, I think, and be open to sharing some of their information and plans with us. But that's how I would see it. Now, whether they partner with the county or partner with a local government in the county is
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. Are we ready? So we're ready to move forward? So we'll move forward with the agenda.
A vote.
A vote on that, right. And a motion and a second made. So we have to vote. Is there any, no more discussion?
Is a second up there? Yep.
So we'll vote this time.
She cast the deciding vote.
And that was all yeses. Thank you. We'll move on to number 4, the resolution supporting the town of St. Joseph's, St. Croix County TAP grant application. And I'll turn that over to Supervisor Ring.
I would like to, this comes to us from the Community Development Committee. I would recommend that we approve or move it. I would move adoption of this resolution. The background on this, do you want a second before I give a little explanation?
Second to that, Supervisor Babbitt.
So, as it's outlined in the resolution, the town of St. Joseph is looking just for support in their application to make a connection from the 4.7-mile loop trail that's going to be on the St. Croix River crossing. There's a whole effort going on. You've heard from the St. Croix Bike and Pedestrian Coalition. There's a whole effort to create trails system across the county. We're right now in the process of a countywide bike and pedestrian plan. This would be the first link to take us from that major 4.7 mile loop trail into western Wisconsin. So they have an application, they have to put substantial money in it of their own, and they're just looking for support, and I hope this body lends that support.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No questions? Then we'll vote. And that's all yeses. Thank you. Now we'll move on to number 5, resolution approving 2/11/16's text amendment to the Town of Troy zoning ordinance. Supervisor Berkey.
I move to approve the 2/11/16 text amendments to the Town of Troy zoning ordinance.
Supervisor Nelson, second. Supervisor
I
Berkey.
wanted to point out that our Plan Commission member, Jan Kusha, Town Board member, is here, and if there are some questions, she's available to answer those, as is our Community Development Director. So, Jan, do you want to come up? You know, basically, the town is required to show those amendments having been processed through various policies outlined in many documents, and then that has to come before the full county board, because we are in the town of Troy, we have our own zoning. However, I'm going to ask Jan to give some more detail about that.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I'm just here to show support for this. We did get a recommendation from the Community Development Committee. We have worked hard on our first zoning amendments, and I'm here to answer questions if you have any. I know the hour's late, so I don't necessarily go into each and every detail, but here for questions and if you have any. Sounds good. Thank you, Joe.
Any questions? No questions? It's time to vote on the motion. There's a motion, second on the floor. And that's all yeses. Thank you. Number 6 is the amendment to the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 17, Subchapter 3, Section 117.30 Shoreland Overlay District, 1730G.3A2 and 4, 1730 G3, B4, and 5, 1730 G4A, 1730 H4E, and 1730 M1, B3, 4, and 5. Do I have a motion? That's a lot.
Roger, what was that?
You want me to repeat that again? Why do we make such long ones? Supervisor Ring.
I would like to move adoption
Okay, now I need a second.
of, should I repeat it?
Motion made. Second by Supervisor Seacard.
Is that it? Okay.
Yep. Supervisor Ring.
Just a little bit of background. We've heard over the last several months about the changes to the shoreland zoning ordinance. This county adopted, I believe in 2014, a new shoreland zoning ordinance. It was new, had lots of work on it. The budget bill in the last legislative session changed the rules, and basically where before there were rules that said you have to do this, that, as someone described it to me, with the change in the budget bill, the floor became the ceiling. And as a result, we have to change our ordinances to match the state. We're going to do it in 2 phases, and the 2 phases, because there is still some pending legislation. The first phase addresses 3 areas where it's silent, and then there's a statutory amendment. They're outlined here. We have Ellen here to give, and she's prepared to go through a quick presentation if we would like that. Related to this, I'd like to make one more comment. Several of us went to a meeting with the Wisconsin Counties Association when their legislative, their lobbyists said that they're looking at what the top 5 issues are that they're going to be looking at statewide. And changes to the shoreland zoning district they expect that to be one of the top 5. So there are more changes yet to come. But to be in compliance, we need to make these changes. So I'll leave it up to you if you would like to have the more detailed presentation.
I was looking at some no shaking out there, so maybe we'll.
I do need to.
Are there questions?
I do need to ask you to do one thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Roy.
I'd like to ask,
Sure.
what would be the, what would happen to this county if we refuse to follow that statute?
That's a good question. You're right.
There
Ellen.
is actually one county that's talking about doing that, refusing to follow. Most of the counties are working on making the changes and trying to find ways to regulate in such a manner that they will not see detriment to our water bodies and our groundwater. But there is one county talking about, that I had understood just at a meeting I was at Friday, that they are talking about doing that.
Okay.
But I don't know that it's a good idea. I'll let the court counsel respond.
Well, I think there could be some legal exposure to the county if we are exceeding our regulatory authority. Landowner applies for a permit and they're required to do things that we are not authorized to control. Seems to me that that might be a pretty good case to bring into court. Not saying that the legislation is wise, I'm saying that there are limits that have been placed on there, so.
I need to bring up something, sorry, but I didn't realize it till I was sitting here getting ready just in case you asked for a presentation. But the actual ordinance amendment does say that it would be effective, this amendment would be effective on May 1. And I did send an email to Mr. Cox, who apparently didn't see it, asking him if we can actually do things retroactively, which I doubt.
No.
County. Okay, so I would like to ask if you, Agnes, or someone could propose an amendment saying effective May 15th, just adding a 5 in there between the 1 and the comma to make it legal. So.
Okay.
No, please don't.
You
And
said
are there
okay
any
to
other
amend it.
questions before I let her do that?
Any other questions? You're going to amend that?
Yeah, what's the best way to do that? I can just change the motion there.
Change the motion?
Yes, so to.
That's okay with everybody? Is that okay with
Unless there's an
everybody?
objection,
Change-
we will change it, the date of it, that it becomes effective to May 15th.
Yes. Still okay with the second? Okay. So we have an amendment to the motion to change that to May 15th, so we have to vote on that first? Is there- What?
We just changed the motion.
No one's objecting to the amendment.
So nobody's objecting? Okay, so we'll move forward. If there's any other discussion? Supervisor Brinkman?
Would this have any effect on the court case we currently have in Washington DC right now, if we change to this?
We've had that discussion and our answer is no, because that court case deals with the St. Croix Riverway Overlay District, and this is shoreland. The Riverway Overlay District comes straight to us from federal law and also state law, and the state cannot
change, this is the advice we've received from DNR, is that it cannot change it, so.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? If not, we're ready to vote. So. One no, all the rest are yeses. Thank you. At this time, we'll ask for any requests for future agenda items.
I guess
Supervisor Berkey?
I've probably asked for this in the past, but it has to do with timing from the UW Extension regarding our University Extension office and programming and staff. So we'll continue to work on that in committee, but I expect that it will be a future item before long.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Nothing? We have one item here that I'd like to just say something about. On July 5th, our meeting on July 5th. Does anybody have a problem? I'm asking the board if you have a problem moving that to July 11th at 5 o'clock instead of the 5th. That's that week when people are a lot of times gone, and if you look at your calendars and see. For county board meeting, just switching it for that month.
His notes say the 11th, so.
Yeah, the 11th. What?
Yes.
That's a Monday. Yeah, it'll be on a Monday instead of a Tuesday. Okay, okay. So it probably isn't possible to do that then.
Is the 12th okay, Rod? June?
Excuse me? I thought HHS was on Tuesday. Yeah. Right. So we can't do it on the 12th.
How about the 13th? What? For
That's
church
just a
night for you,
question.
Andy?
What's priority town board or county?
Well, we can do it on the 5th if everybody thinks.
What
they're
about
gonna
the
be around.
13th? Would that be an option?
Excuse me?
The 13th, Wednesday, the 13th?
13? Whoops.
All day? Well,
13th, is that a problem, the 13th? I'm just asking questions. That's a problem? Okay. Supervisor Nelson?
I have a question. I don't know what the county board priority line is. Are we acquiescing county boards so people can go to the town boards, or I'm trying to figure this out because we're taking 19 people from all over the county to try to find a day when, I don't know. I'm looking at my retiree schedule and I'm trying to figure out what a day is to work, but it seems like the whole rest of the week is full of other things too. So I don't know. I'm just a little bit confused because I always thought the county board is pretty high priority. I understand the town boards are too, but if the 11th.
They are. Well, we can leave it on the 5th and we'll just come in on the 5th.
What about the 6th?
So we'll just leave it on the 5th then, and we'll just work our way through it. And people will have to come back off vacation a little early. So Supervisor Brinkman.
Just to let everybody know that on Sunday, August 28th or 29th, I can't remember which day that is, the St. Croix County Sheriff's Department Canine Club will be having a golf fundraiser at Pheasant Hills Golf Course located just north of Hammond. It is $60 a person. Obviously, that's $240 a foursome. And it's a great cause. For those of you that don't know this, because we've gotten questioned on it, why there isn't canine funding in the budget. It is because the sheriff has elected to keep that as a donated thing. So we really need to get out there and support them. I know the date of our last meeting, they had a Champs in Richmond had a deal for them. They raised almost $1,400 towards food and things like that for the dogs within 4 hours. So Sunday, August, it's either 28th or 29th. If anybody'd like to sign up, by all means, you can email me and I'll get you on the list.
Okay. Supervisor Nelson?
The Sheriff's Department's also having a law enforcement remembrance. Andy, do you remember the date? Because I forgot.
I want to say July 13th right now, but I know it's May.
No, actually, there's one this May 17th. All right, we got it.
Supervisor Seacart, you had something?
No, that was what I was going to bring up.
Oh, okay, okay. Anything else for announcements, Supervisor? Burke?
The only other announcement, and everybody received this at the last meeting, is the Mayfair event at the fairgrounds. It's a important fundraiser that we have for for fairground buildings. So if you didn't get this and need another copy, I have one. We'd love for you to come. It's a fun activity, food provided, silent auction, regular auction, don't have to spend anything, or you can spend. Thanks.
Okay. Supervisor Nelson?
Saturday night, 6 o'clock, River Falls, New Richmond, baseball at the River Falls Park. There might be somebody you know working home plate, and Supervisor Austin said any board members show up, he buys the first beer. Actually, it's a fantastic park. It's a great tribute to River Falls, what they did as far as baseball. It's a fantastic, I'm kind of looking forward to it. And I'll be working home plate too. So you can give me any insult you want, I can take it.
Okay. We'll get the county clerk's report.
Okay, now it's my turn.
Yeah.
So. I would just like to announce that a former county board supervisor, Richard Peterson, passed away on May 1st. He served on the county board for 16 years. I believe he was elected in 1982 and also served as county board chair for 4 years. He was 95 years old, and I know his family, and I knew Richard, and he said, his wife told me once that when they started to televise the county board meetings, he was so happy that he could sit at home and watch the meetings. So he just loved meetings, she said. So I would like to also bring up that the WCA County Officials Workshop, that is May 19th in Eau Claire. And if you're interested in going, it's a $75 registration, which I will register you, but you need to let me know by May 11th. The price goes up after that date. And just let me know if you're interested in going so I can get you registered and work out some carpooling. And then also, just to put on your calendars, the WCA Annual Conference is in Milwaukee this year. It's September 25th through the 27th. Registration deadline is the first part of August, and so I will remind you of that later. And then every 2 years we try to do a group photo of the county board. So I'm tentatively scheduling that for the June 7th, before the June 7th county board meeting, 4:45, something like that, but I will send out this reminder to you. I just wanted, hopefully you would get that on your calendar. And that's all I have. So. May 19th, yes. I do have some of these if you're interested in, but just let me know, drop me an email, something like that, and I'll take care of the registration.
Any other announcements? If there are none, Supervisor Peavy.
Maybe you should announce that since we have the committee set, the conveners better get ready and call meetings.
Yeah, that would be excellent. Everybody's out, the committees are all put together. Try to get things set up as quick as you can, get the committee chairs and vice chairs and get that information back to Cindy if you could, please. Appreciate that. Thank you for reminding me on that. If there's no other business, we're adjourned. Thank you.